Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our AI Fireside Chat at iBusiness Funding headquarters. Today, we welcome a very special guest. We have Ben Schreiner, the head of AI and modern data strategy business development at AWS. So Ben, introduce yourself and tell us a little about your background, if you would.
I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. Quite the honor to address all of you. I'll admit my first half of my career was in financial services, so I have an affinity for what you all do. I started as a commercial lender, so I lent money, which is the best job in the world. You sell money, and who doesn't want more money? So it was a great job. Right when the internet became a thing, so I'm a little old, and I remember when the internet had a distinct sound that it made. And we've come a long way since then.
Dial up.
But it was what convinced me to get into technology. I was convinced it was going to change financial services and banking. I was right. It just took a lot longer than my 20-something self had patience for. So I did a few startups and then got back into banking, spent 3 years in Amsterdam as the global head of IT strategy and innovation at ABN AMRO Bank. We sold that bank for $85 billion days before the financial crisis happened.
Good timing.
It was excellent timing. So I retired from financial services then. I needed a change. Went to work for Dell for 10 years, was one of their keynote speakers. And then for the last 6, which in cloud years is 42, last 6 years has been AWS, where I've held a variety of roles. I'm an AWS spokesperson, so I'm allowed to talk to the press, which is a very an honor. Stressful. Yes, I put my badge on the table every time I open my mouth to reporters and hope to get it back. So far, so good.
Great. Well, thank you for being here. So I'm Justin Levy, founder and CEO of iBusiness Funding. And so from founded the company about 12 years ago. And from the inception of our company, our mission has been to deliver capital to small businesses in an efficient and transparent manner. And today in 2025, we are on the cusp of, we are in the midst of a technological revolution, and that is AI. And so there's a lot of hype around AI, and I personally believe all that hype is deserved and then some, and in the impacts we're starting to see in our business. And so we are big users and partners of AWS, so appreciate your partnership there.
Likewise.
And so there's a lot that goes into AI. There's a lot of conversations. Everyone's talking about it.
Good.
And so
me too.
One of the main things that keeps me up at night, one of the many things that keeps me up at night is that people aren't talking so much about is AI security and data security with AI. So I'd love to get your thoughts on how important is security or data security in the context of AI. And one of my biggest concerns and our biggest concerns is that once one of these large language models has your data, does it ever let it go?
Well, great question, and I'm sorry you don't sleep well, but I understand the weight.
The bags under my head.
The weight that you carry being responsible for everyone here and the growth of the company. When you're in financial services and in the line of business that you're in, trust is critical. Like your customers have to trust you. And I would equate what you do and what we do very similar in that regard. Our cloud, if you couldn't trust it to be reliable and to be secure, then ultimately your customers wouldn't trust the reliability and security of the solutions that you put out. So we're in this together, and we take security very seriously. We refer to it, and you'll hear our CEO, Andy Jassy, now refer to it as job zero. So it's everybody's responsibility. We take responsibility for securing the cloud, and then it's your responsibility as a customer to secure what you put in the cloud. And so we have a variety of tools and techniques and services, over 200 now, to try and make that easier. Security is not easy. Everybody knows there's bad guys out there and gals, not to be too tailored one way or the other. And they're trying desperately to disrupt and to find ways to interrupt, disrupt, and profit from doing things and disrupting business. So we do our part, and we believe that it's a partnership, and there are ways we can help you be more secure. There's lots of things that we're doing that we'll talk about when we get to agentic, because that's a whole new paradigm beyond just the generative AI models that you were referring to. But to answer your question about once the LMs get your data, if they've trained on it, the answer is yes, it's in the model and it's there for good. The models have all been trained on the whole of the internet. Does everybody believe everything they read on the internet? No, just like you shouldn't believe everything that comes out of one of the models unless you've double checked it. And your data, if it's out on the public internet, is part of that training set. What we don't want is your customers' data and this company's data out on that internet. And so we took a very different approach to AI and to large language models than our peers that are out there. We felt that we would bring the models to you and your data, not the other way around. So if you go back in history, a couple of years, you had to put your data in the model, and then people got worried, like Justin, about what happens then. And there were lots of articles written and lots of cases where, intellectual property was accidentally, inadvertently put out there where, others got it. And it educated a lot of people real quick. We took a very different tactic where we prioritized data security, the security of the cloud, and that transitions into how we developed Bedrock, how we make the different models available, and then it transcends into how we're approaching agentic as well.
Great, yeah. And so something I think about, every conference we go to, there's new AI startups.
Yes.
And using code. So not just necessarily even bad actors who are trying to get access to data, but even good actors who are just starting a company, right? And when you're a startup, the number one priority is get revenue, prove your concept. And security is not typically the number one
afterthought.
And so our product's called Lender AI. And it was called Lender AI for about 4 years now. And our clients would always ask us,
what's
Justin,
AI?
Where's the AI? There's no AI in your Lender AI. And we're like, yeah, we know. And the reason why that is because we weren't comfortable putting in AI until we first developed a secure infrastructure. So out of our 10 or so developer team has been building a secure infrastructure, which we now feel comfortable this year for the first time layering AI to it. So do you have any advice? So one thing that worries me is advice for a financial institution based on your financial services background. Sure. If you're evaluating vendors and every vendor sounds good, you put together a great demo, how can a bank or a financial institution, insurance company, or anyone who cares about data protection assess a startup or an AI company and how seriously they take AI security?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I'll speak first about how we look at it and how that might be different than maybe a startup does. We've been doing AI a little longer than you. Is anybody an Amazon.com customer? Oh, okay. It is kind of a joke, but thank you for laughing for those who did.
For everything.
Yeah, we've been doing AI probably for 20 years as part of our logistics. It is part of how we predict where inventory needs to be so that we can ship it to you as fast as we ship it to you. Has anybody participated in a Prime Day ever? Okay, good. I mean, or somebody at your house, you don't have to admit that it was you. But Prime Day, just so you know, Prime Day is physically, humanly impossible. Physically, humanly impossible without having a modern data strategy. We know where everything is at any given point in time. Having a layer of intelligence across all of the data that we have. And then robots, we have 1 million robots now deployed in production that all make the people that are part of the process safer and more effective and more efficient. And we save our customers, you all, $1 billion every time we run Prime Day. $1 billion saved. Not just how much we make and how much we ship, but $1 billion gets saved at least twice a year. And we couldn't do it if we didn't have the data where it is. When we were talking earlier, you mentioned how important your data is to the company and what you do. We feel the exact same way. That data is your competitive differentiator, your ability to leverage it and to create a flywheel of continuous improvement and continuous enhancement of value to your end customers is what separates you from anyone else that is in your market space.
But how do you know? How do you differentiate who someone like yourselves, the institution who's built on a bedrock, pun intended, of data security versus a startup that's just trying to prove out a proof of concept, get a customer, get in business, and then hire security?
Yeah, I'll say it this way, right? Again, having been a trained banker and an accountant by education, not all data is created equal, right? And for the longest time, when you talk data security, everything got protected, right? Or nothing got protected. You could go either way. But the reality is, if you protect everything the same way, you have stuff that doesn't need to get protected, have an expense or a tax associated with it. And then a bunch of other stuff that you probably needed to protect even more, but you couldn't spread the time or the energy or the money as well. And so most companies don't do a great job of categorizing their data in a way to make sure that they're protecting the PII, well, we do healthcare, we do government agencies that we aren't allowed to talk about. But there are different classifications. And if you do that well, I think you can take certain aspects of your business and entrust it to a startup because you've assessed the risk appropriately, right? But if you look at your business and the need for trust with your customers, there are certain parts of your business that probably I would be very apprehensive and need a lot of proof that they were taking security as seriously as you do. And we certainly do, just given who all is on our platform around the world. But every startup, just like you said, is in a hurry to, get to profitability or get the next round of funding, and they need logos and they're in a hurry. And I know you're in a hurry, right? You want to get features out there. You want to enhance the product. And speed, our CEO has a great saying, and right now, today, it couldn't be more truthful, is speed is a choice. It's a leadership choice, speed. Right? But you have to approach it with a level of understanding of the risks that it can introduce if you go through and are just rolling things out. I was in DC at the corporate directors, so all boards of directors. I was hanging out with them for the last couple of days. And I asked them all, many of them all have an AI chatbot of some kind, right? Everybody and their dog has one. And I asked, what did you compare it to? Did you make a comparison, or did you just use the one that was given to you or offered first? And you'd be shocked at how many just took the one that was being offered because who it was being offered by. And I'm like, you should compare. You should be prudent. You should look at different tools. You should look at different models. And that's been our approach to this whole AI thing. You have several other players who have their eggs in a basket. And we've taken our approach similar to Amazon.com. We want you to have the most choice, the best price, and to get it as fast as possible. That's our retail side of the business. When it comes to AI and how we view models and agents and everything else, we want you to have the most choice at the best price, make it as easy as possible for you to get up and running on it, and make sure it's secure and reliable. It's the same model, right? I think it's a bit presumptuous for us to think that we could develop a model to solve all of our customers' possible problems. Your problems and what you all are trying to do is very unique in the market, right? And you need a model that matches your uniqueness, that augments your data, right? And I don't know if that's Llama, I don't know if it's Claude, I don't know if it's Nova, how could I? So we create a way for you to have a marketplace. You can pick whatever model we make available, and even OpenAI's Open Weights is available. But we also give you the ability to evaluate, to compare and contrast, to run the same prompts against a couple of different models to see which one has the best answer, but also price performance. That's another thing that security doesn't get talked about. Sooner or later, everybody's going to have to pay for this stuff. And I don't believe that using the biggest model possible for some of the small problems is the right return on investment equation, right? And so we developed an ability to distill a big model down to a smaller model. So these big models are trained on the whole of the internet, including Latin. Do you need Latin to solve some of the problems that you're solving? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But there's some of that data set that isn't required for what you do. And so if you can distill a big model down to a smaller one, you can run it a whole lot more effectively and efficiently and start to solve more problems than you can with just a great big model.
I think that's a great point. Eventually, we're going to run out of compute, right? And we're going to maybe everyone and run out of compute, not necessarily because we have too many problems, but because we're not using it efficiently. So a good point you brought up, which is, so let's say, in the financial services and banking with our bank clients and our small business clients, they're entrusting us with the most security, tax returns, bank statements, social security numbers, articles of incorporation, items about their business that are so critical. So as a bank, as a lender, as a financial institution, how do you know if you had a large language model take your data? How do you know? Is it too late? Does a borrower say, hey, by the way, I asked ChatGPT what my W-2 income was in 2013 and it knew? Or how do you know that the data has been trained and captured in a model?
Well, I mean, and not to dismiss it, but I mean, unfortunately, the bad actors that are out there are sharing all kinds of information that they're coming across, and it's ending up in public places. There isn't an easy way to audit what has been made public and to trace where it came from, right? There's not a silver bullet to put people's minds at ease. The best recommendation I can give, just given the business that you're in and the fact that your existing customers trust you, they wouldn't be your customers if they didn't trust you, is you all need to continually reassure. You have to find ways to reassure them. So we have all kinds of things that we provide you that you can then provide them to say, look, here are some of the artifacts. Here are some of the certifications because you're built on top of us. You inherit all the security that we have in place. And I'm fairly confident that we've probably got more security folks than you'll ever be able to hire, right? And they are very good at what they do. And they're protecting all of our customers, big and small. So you can think of, and I think some of our very large banking customers. I mean, HSBC is a customer. I'm sure you've heard of a small company called Intuit who has a fair number of small businesses that they serve as well. And they handle a fair number of tax returns that go through that are all on top of us. So we have a lot of commonality, and we do provide a fair number of certifications, audit capabilities, and reassurances, both in if you're using the models that are on us, what it is and what it isn't. We talked earlier about, again, you hosting your version of the model, right? So if you're hosting your version of the model, it's yours. None of our other customers can get to it. We can't get to it, right? It's truly yours. And it's intended that way so that you can be rest assured that you're now responsible for what happens. But it is your responsibility for what happens.
And we have a saying, everything in good security. So that famous saying, everything in good health?
Yes.
If you don't have your health, nothing else matters. And so we kind of have the saying is if you don't have security, nothing else matters. And the same thing with health is you either eat healthy today, or you end up paying for it later.
You certainly do.
And so we view security in the same way, is investing. You're either investing upfront along the way, or you're going to have a real big expense and investment down the road. So we view it kind of similarly as eating healthy, doing all the blocking and tackling, and focusing on security. And also, by the way, just like health or going to the gym, it's never a stagnant process. It's constant and iterative, and you can never quit. And you have to keep working at it.
That analogy, by the way, please.
Perfect. You heard it here first.
Yeah, you're going to see it published. That was a great analogy that I think helps non-technical people. I mean, you got a technical group here, which I'm sure gets why security is so important to your company and to your customers. But that's a great analogy for the lay person who maybe doesn't appreciate it but should.
It's like going to the gym, which we all could do more of it.
Yes.
So you've been quoted by saying that replacing junior employees with AI is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
I did say that.
And so can you elaborate? And maybe you only hang around with smart people, so you haven't heard a lot of dumb things. But can you elaborate on how companies should adapt junior and entry level roles to using AI?
Yeah, I said that in response. There's a ton of press out there, and I think they're trying to get people to click, and and I appreciate it. Right, they're all have jobs that they're trying to do, but the clickbait. If you think about a business and you're trying to grow business, and you've been at this 12 years, if you got rid of the junior people, you could do that. You could do that. It's a short-term fix, and so you could cheat on your diet, you could not go to the gym. I'm going back to your analogy, right? But you're going to pay for it later. And it's not going to be the first year or the next year, but in 5 years, those junior people, the early in career folks, all of us were at one point in time, that first couple of jobs that you have is where you learn your critical thinking. It's where you learn context. It's where you learn from others and where you learn to actually critically think about harder and harder problems. And if you don't have those people that understand your organization, in 5 years' time, you're going to need to hire people. Where do they come from? You're going to hire from the outside, and those people don't have the institutional knowledge. They don't know how things have progressed, and they just take longer to ramp, and they have different cultures. They don't have your culture, and I know you have a distinct culture here and what you've built. And so you're sacrificing that short-term kind of thing that you could do, but you're going to pay for it later, just like your analogy. And so I think you absolutely have to evolve the junior role. So junior roles used to be, you did the administrative task that the senior people didn't want to do, right? Like that is often what a lot of us did, right? And you learn by doing those things. Reality is that agents and agentic capabilities are going to take some of those tasks and do them for you so that you don't need that junior person to do it. So you're going to have to evolve the role, and you should evolve the expectations. It's not manually entering things into a CRM system or something silly like that, but actually using, maybe it's an agent in front of your knowledge base to ramp up these junior people so that they're actually more capable earlier or faster than they were in the organic way of learning kind of on the job. So I see it as a great time to hire, here's the other thing about the folks coming into the workforce now is they're going to be AI native. And I'm not, and you're not, and most of the people in this room are not, right? So they grew up with an iPhone in their hand. Right? I didn't. I remember when they came out and it was pretty cool, right? But the next generation, I think we all have a lot to learn from, right? And so we do, and I encourage I do a ton of mentoring, and I learn as much from my early in career mentees because I ask them to teach me things. They ask questions. They speak a different language as far as I'm concerned, right? But there's a lot I can learn from how they look at the world and how they look at problems. And a lot of them are going to become small businesses, right? They're going to become the next entrepreneur that needs a loan from you and wants to appreciate it. So I really do think it'd be dumb and short-sighted to actually eliminate it. But I do think as leaders and as managers, we need to change the expectations of how fast they ramp and what we have them doing, because it needs to evolve with the times.
I completely agree. And that's a perfect segue to my next question. And I will get to what you said about company culture and company processes when we talk about agentic.
Great.
That's super relevant there. But something you talked about is there's a big fear about AI also in entry level in roles. It's about fear. Is this AI, the first reaction a lot of people say is AI going to take my job? And I'll give you another analogy. So I analogize is that this is, I think the electronic calculator was invented sometime in the 1960s. Obviously abacus and calculations were done before then, but the electronic calculator, as we know it today, came around in about 1960s. And what that did was it didn't replace math.
No.
It didn't replace mathematicians.
Nope.
But what it did do is replace people that didn't use the calculator.
Yes.
And so what I always say is AI isn't going to replace people. It's going to replace people that don't use AI. And AI is the most powerful calculator of our time today.
Hands down.
And so to your point about people being natively AI, intuitively understanding and using it, like you said, where we didn't grow up with it, that's a competitive advantage.
It is.
And so what do you say to people in companies or any industry of that saying like, are afraid of adopting AI for that very reason?
So again, talk to executives and leadership teams, like that's my job. And there are always three buckets of people in every company. You have the early adopters who are, it's shiny and I want to play with it and I love them to death, because you need those people to kick the tires and to make the products better and to figure out what it can and can't do. You have this skeptical middle, right? That tries it a little bit, but it remains a bit skeptical and wants to see it work and it's got to be proven before they spend too much time. And then you have that last third that is just not having it, right? And
laggards.
Yeah, laggards, exactly right. And I'll say this, right? Like this is a leadership moment for all of you, right? This change is happening and the genie cannot get put back in the bottle. As leaders, though, you've got to meet people where they are. And the laggards are afraid of something. And if you're an empathetic leader, you need to get to the bottom of what that is. And as a human being, they're probably worried about losing their job. They're probably worried that they can't learn it, or it's been a while since they've learned something, right? They've been doing the same job for a long time maybe, and this is new and it's scary. And that's okay. That's a human reaction, and it's okay. Acknowledge it, right? But then try to give them ways to get comfortable. Try and find, like, I encourage everybody should be using, like, show of hands, who uses AI on a daily basis? Who doesn't? And wants to admit it in front of everyone. Just kidding, he's watching, like, keep your hands down.
So Ben, I don't want to brag, but you might be in the room of the highest percentage of early adopters that you've ever sat in.
Good, and good, right? Because you're gonna set the bar and you're gonna show people how it's done. Here's what's going to happen. The bar setters are going to run faster than anybody else, and it's going to be harder for everyone else to catch up, right? You're creating a differentiator for yourself if you adopt these tools to work for you, right? I don't believe that it'll actually replace too many people, like the whole job. And I also talked to a fair number of chief human resource officers, and they're worried about how it's going to affect people. And I ask, how much of a job is in the job description, right? Like I've read mine, and it's probably half of what I do, right? It's the big rocks, right? But there's a lot of what I do that's not in the job description. And I think AI is going to do some of the tasks, but it's rare you're going to find a job where it can just wipe out everything that you do. Unless your job is like maybe data, you're looking at a piece of paper and you're manually putting that in. Okay, yeah, the computer vision can do that for you. And now let's go train you to do something else. But this is about having a growth mindset, seeing that the world is changing and wanting to be a part of the change. And the folks who don't want to be a part of the change, it's trying to find ways to help them see that they can learn this. I've got a 75-year-old dad who struggles with his iPhone, and I'm tech support, right? I'm the genius bar, he calls. And I want to help him because he wants to learn, right? But it's a mindset thing, and it comes down to culture.
Totally agree again. And at iBusiness, we've actually seen this in action.
Good.
So like I said, we have an inordinate amount of early adopters, which we're fortunate with. But everyone in this room, everyone in our company, we've seen this in action where you are able to take what you do on a daily basis, use AI or use software, and before even AI is automate your individual tasks. Use data entry for a perfect example.
Yeah.
We have people, especially in financial services, when you're underwriting loans, you're inputting data to a credit memo.
Yep.
You have a lot of financial institutions to this day are still inputting data.
Oh, yeah.
And not even inputting, they're trying to gather it from all these different places because data is not centralized. It's in disparate different sources. It's in bank statements, it's in tax returns, it's in borrower supplied, it's in email, it's in all over the place, it's in credit reports. And so just getting the data before you can analyze it and then data enter, it's still being done today in 2025 by very high level, high paid, high sophisticated people.
Yep.
So what we've seen in iBusiness, and we've proven this time and time again, is give AI and technology actually gives career paths and allows people to not focus on, instead of, you said data entry, we have people who started in data entry who are now moved and elevated their careers to sophisticated loan underwriting.
Good.
And they start, and data entry actually gives you good context because you know where the data comes from.
You do.
And then, so
You're
even
grounded.
Yes, and even when you need, and then when you're even now trying to train AI models or build software or technology, you know the building blocks of all these different pieces.
You understand how it works.
And instead of, mentality shouldn't be, this is going to lay off half our workforce. But now we can, our teams who are so sophisticated, who can grow and learn and do more.
Right.
Now, instead of processing 10 loans a day, we can handle 100 loans a day, 1,000 loans a day with the same headcount, and people allow them to step up in their career and learn new things and focus on new higher value items. So that's what we've seen in practice. And we've seen it time and time, not even with AI. AI is now accelerating this.
It is.
But we've seen this with just tech and automation workflows, machine learning, the old AI, right?
Yeah.
and
traditional, we call it.
Traditional.
Traditional.
Excuse me, traditional AI. And we've seen this time and time again, and that's really, I think, should be the mentality is, how can we do more? How can we give people more? Like, now that the data entry, now that the tax returns are automatically OCR'd, they're spread, the tax transcripts are in there for you, the bank statements are in there for you, now can you just review and add more of their experience to that, because now that all the data is there for you.
Well, there's things. I'm a big fan of the World Economic Forum. They do a ton of great research. They had a jobs report that came out in January of this year, and I'll send it to you and you can share it. But there's a quadrant that says the skills you're going to need are going to be in high value or high demand in 2030, which is not
that far off.
That long.
We'll be there.
Now, right? And you're not going to be surprised what some of those are, right? It's critical thinking. It's the ability to communicate and influence. Like, their human skills are going to start to be at a priority when you have the AI doing some of the tasks that we don't need to do anymore, right? It's logical, but I want to encourage people to just keep that in the forefront of your mind as you're developing as a professional. Like, what you're good at is going to evolve, and your human ability to problem solve and to critically think. We want to free up time, right? We want to use the tools, AI, to free up time so you can do other value-added things. So for your customers, it's to go help more small businesses, right? To go help more of their customers because they're not having to do the data entry because they have your tools, right? To make it easier for them or make it easier for their end customer to engage and offer or provide the information that's needed to make a decision. So all of this is exciting, but it should be ultimately, and we need to stay grounded in a couple of things. One, these tools should be for the benefit of humankind. Full stop, period. Like, that's what they should be for. And we need to deploy them in a way responsibly so that they do it. The other thing, I speak quite a bit about responsible AI and safe AI, is we as the humans have to put AI in a box and tell it what it can and can't do. Full stop. Have to do that, right? It is our responsibility to tell AI, if you're deploying it, what it can and cannot do. And I've got a simple test that I tell all the executives I engage with, because everybody's got a corporate bot. And I say, ask it for a chocolate chip cookie recipe, right? And unless you're in the chocolate chip cookie recipe business, right, or chocolate chip cookie business, it shouldn't give you one, right? Because it's not germane to your business, right? And if you know anything about wasting time and money, if you have your employees doing all kinds of stuff that's not related to what the corporation's trying to do, you're wasting tokens and you're wasting time. But the chocolate chip cookie recipe is an innocent ask. Think of all the not so innocent things I could ask your corporate bot if I were so inclined. And if it gives me answers, that could create risk for your organization, right? And so I say this, that we have to be responsible. We have to realize it's a tool, but we have to do things in a secure and responsible way.
That brings to another great topic, which is compliance. So there's security, yes, but compliance. So how do you, which another is, another heavy focus of ours, but sometimes it's also an afterthought, but how do you ensure that your AI agents are compliant or doing that? And it takes an enormous amount of effort and time to then restrict the AI. I mean, a lot of people are focused on using AI and making it as useful and utilitarian as possible.
Correct.
But how do you go the other way, and how do you ensure it does that? And then how do you test that? What is the best practices there?
So, I mean, Justin, I want to give huge props and kudos to you and the team just in your approach, because I've seen so many companies buy into the hype and race past some of the things that we all learned in computer science class that are just good best practices for developing secure, reliable code. And they rushed because somebody up above or an investor said, where's your AI? Right? And when anybody says, do we have the AI, you know you're in trouble. Right? Like that's a warning red flag. If somebody says, where's the AI, you are probably being motivated by the wrong things. But you guys took the right approach, right? It's just to make sure you understood it because of what you have at risk, right? And that I don't see everywhere. It's definitely in the more regulated industries because they have to, because you could lose your license, you can lose everything, right? And that comes with a certain amount of internal controls, and I'll call it paranoia or sleepless nights, which either one.
Healthy paranoia.
Yeah, there you go. We've got a partner that says only the paranoid survive. And I was like, that's not wrong. But I'll say this, right? Like compliance is a must. And I think in some ways compliance is going to be easier because you're going to have agents that are going to act as internal auditors and double check that things are being done in a compliant way. So the manual checks that used to be required for compliance and just to make sure you were staying on the straight and narrow, I think some of that's going to get easier. I think we make it possible for you to build in some of your enterprise security and some of the compliance into how you build code and train the agents to look for like how you all do what you do to stay compliant. It's also going to make it a little easier for the auditors to find things that aren't compliant, right? Because they're going to send out an army of agents looking for violations. And so it's a check and a balance, but I think ultimately the reason these laws are in place is to protect the consumer, right? At the end of the day, that's why the laws are there. It's way back when somebody got wronged and a law got created to make sure that doesn't happen again. I think we're a long way from having AI laws, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't act responsibly. Like I think, again, you all know because of the industry you're in that the laws will come, right? They will. Something bad will happen and a law will get created to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I wish something bad didn't have to happen for that to be the case. But it doesn't stop you all from doing what you already are doing, which is acting responsibly from the get-go. Right? It shouldn't take something bad happening to go, oh, we should make sure that doesn't happen here. Like just, I mean, I think you're approaching it the right way. And I think some things will get easier with agents to be able to help you make sure that people stay, or new people understand who maybe don't understand all the compliance. It's going to make it easier to ask questions. Hey, can I do this? Can I not do this? What's the policy for that? Like being able to get those answers and not have to come to a senior person every time will allow people to be more compliant and make it easier.
Yeah, I think we work with many banks who use our software, and many of our clients just now, even our largest banks, top 50 banks, top 20 banks in the country, are formulating their AI policies now.
Yes.
And so a fear I have...
We're helping a bunch of them.
Well, that's great. And a fear I have is that eventually, like you said, someone's going to get burned.
Yep.
Someone's going to get burned.
It's inevitable.
And there's going to be an example, there's going to be big headlines on it, and then the laws will catch up. I think, when do you think the laws and Congress steps in? Because there is kind of a balance. There's this AI wars of the United States has a competitive advantage in some, and then there's China AI, right? There's all different countries trying to get on the map with AI, and you guys are a global organization.
We are.
How do it's a tough job for Congress, right? Or to balance like innovation and security. When do you think the laws catch up, or when do you think they get their arms around it?
I think it'll take a while. Certainly with this particular administration, I don't foresee them doing it in a proactive manner just because of the stance that we've taken for innovation is the priority versus putting any guardrails in place. I think if something bad happens between now and the end of the term, which I don't hope happens, right? But that could change the administration's viewpoint. But if not, then I don't foresee it, this term. Again, it is inevitable, and I think you will all be better off, as will your customers be better off by taking the approaches that you've taken to just be prudent and responsible and think through how you're using the things and make sure that you're doing it in a way that helps humanity and helps your customers, which again is the approach you've taken.
And a word you mentioned was agents.
I did.
So very, very hot word and key word for us too is agentic AI.
Yes.
So tell me about what you guys are seeing in agentic AI. And I think that also dovetails nicely back to that entry-level role and understanding a business process of how that interweaves and how critical that is to build useful agents.
Yeah. I mean, for the last 2 years, it was all generative all day. And it warranted the spotlight. Like what we can do now, I think you all appreciate because you're early adopters. What we can do now, we fundamentally could not do 2 years ago. It wasn't possible, right? Which is a pretty amazing thing to think of, like what we can do now. Only 2 years ago was not possible. I'll submit to you as well that what we're going to be able to do in 2 years hasn't been invented yet, which is also exciting. The large language models have all been trained on the whole of the internet, and now they're all trying to find new and different sources of data to make their models better at benchmarking and doing what it is they've been designed to do. It's my personal belief, and certainly Amazon's, that the models won't be your competitive differentiator. Like they're rapidly getting to a common denominator that's negligible in difference, and you see it, right? Like here comes 4, and now 4.5, and it's better, right? Like, but it's not as big a jump as 2 to 3 was, or 3 to 4.
It's not a step function forward.
Correct, right? So you're starting to see the diminishing returns start to become apparent. There are other ways to optimize. There are other ways to innovate, and you're going to start to see that as well. Agents, though, as the logical progression of these things, is a paradigm shift for software development, right? And I've been around a long time. I remember when service-oriented architecture was supposed to solve all the problems. And if you're old, you'll know what that is. You all probably heard about APIs, and that was supposed to solve all the service-oriented architecture problems. It didn't. I mean, it solved some, but it created others. And agentic is just the next logical evolution. But there's a cool difference, right? So the large language models and how most people interact, you ask a question, you get an answer. And a lot of people use it as just an advanced Google. Like it truly is how 90% of the population uses AI right now. Agents now are going to be able to act. And autonomous action is the big differentiator. And being able to break your business processes up into logical chunks, like you did for microservices, like you did for service-oriented architectures. But those business processes, some of them can turn into agents and be self-contained and interact with other agents. It is amazing what you are going to be able to do. We are early days, early innings, but what we're seeing is truly impressive. But it creates a whole set of new problems, right? And so one of the things that I love about working for Amazon is we like to say that we invent on your behalf, right? So we take a lot of customer feedback. You guys give us customer feedback. We do our very best to incorporate it into whatever we're doing with the products and how they evolve. But one of the things we've done with agents that we announced in July is something called Agent Core. So agents need to run somewhere. Logical, right? It's code. It needs to run somewhere. That where should be secure. Like most people don't even know where, like they're spinning up agents, they don't even know where they are, right? And this is where you get the enthusiasm gets ahead of responsible, and security, right? So we have a secure environment where agents get spun up. You're going to need a gateway. You're going to need observability. You're going to need monitoring. You're going to need authentication, right? So when you and I log into a system, you know you're a person. You know what rights you should have, and your rights should be very different than mine. When you start to have agents acting on our behalf, you've got to have a way to identify what should that agent be doing and who is it doing it on behalf of, right? Your customers aren't all created equal, right? So we've got ways of thinking through these things, and we're early days too of evolving kind of this security lens as it comes to agents, because right now people have like this many agents running around, right? And we're thinking about, okay, that's solvable because you can look at what they're doing. And you want to be able to audit, what did they do? When did they drift from what you thought they were supposed to be doing and they're starting to do something that you didn't anticipate, right? So again, monitoring, observability all becomes very important. You start to have thousands of these things or millions of them, and you have to have a governance structure. And that's really where we are running ahead of everybody else, anticipating that that's going to happen and you're going to have these needs. And we want to have battle tested those before you have that problem.
In terms of agents and ability to do work.
Yes.
How important is, so if you're looking at a financial institution, a bank, or even any small business, right? Yep. You have different vendors for different things.
You do.
So you have a phone system, maybe it's a phone, maybe a fax line. Yeah. Maybe you have an email provider. Yep. You have someone that does your website hosting. You have a different CRM provider, and each one of these tools has their own AI,
of course,
in it. So to be truly agentic, how important is it to be single platform, or to be like, how do you make that connection? So how can I have my, if I'm run a plumbing company, how can I have a phone agent talk to my CRM without doing full API integrations and talking like, how important is it to be single platform? I know Amazon, you guys spend an enormous amount of time making everything single platform. And I don't know if you know, but we actually were one of the early adopters of Amazon Connect.
Oh, great.
So we're not in the phone business.
Nor should you be.
Nor should we. But we built a phone system on AWS, on Amazon Connect, for the sole reason, we did this a while ago, that eventually the AI agent, which we call Lensy, can have access on a single platform to the phone system and can make calls. And then every voicemail that we have, everything. And similarly, we also, there's many different email platforms out there. We also use Amazon Pinpoint.
Yep.
So again, single platform for one thing. So that allows Lensy, our AI agent, doesn't have to jump to different phone system, a different email tool. It's all right there.
Yeah.
How important is that?
So I've got a slide in my head that I use to illustrate this. It's a pyramid. It's got the different functions of a business, right? From finance to sales to customer support to just examples of different functions. And what you just stated is 100% what we're seeing right now. There is not a software product manager on this planet that doesn't have AI on the roadmap or baked or planning to bake it into their product, yourselves included. And that's to be expected, right? Everybody wants it as a feature to make their product easier to use or to enhance the customer experience. So it's logical, but there is not a company that I've ever met that has one software to run their entire company, right? Many of us have adopted numerous software as a service platforms. You've routed off, all of those could be software as a service. But there isn't even small businesses have at least this many, if not more, pieces of software, which leads to the data fragmentation, which makes leveraging AI a little more complicated, right? And requiring a level of orchestration. I'll say this, that you should use any software and any AI baked into the software if it helps you do your job faster, right? Period. If it's more effective and efficient, then use what they've developed and the features that they've provided to you. But what that doesn't get you, and this is, I think, what you're alluding to actually transform your business, I talk about each function, and you all represent a bunch of different functions. Each function consumes data and produces data, because you get data from a different function and you provide data to a different function. There's the ins and outs. So there's a flow of data through every single business. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, but there's a flow of data through a business. And your ability to layer on, very biased, right? To layer on a single source of intelligence that potentially interacts with the agents that are inside those pieces of software. What most people don't actually realize is how much software as a service is actually on top of AWS, and how many of them, like your data is still on, in a lot of cases, it's still on top of us. And so you don't have to traverse very far. It's all inside the network in a lot of cases. But it shouldn't preclude you if you're using another email provider that's not on us, right? Like your ability to pull the information in that you need and you know this, and I'm sure all of you know this, like AI consumes data like nothing else, right? And AI is only as good as the data it has access to, which is why your data is so valuable to you and your organization. If you think about all of the data inside your organization, from human resources to marketing to all of it, if you could actually assimilate all of it and make it available to a layer of intelligence, there's some pretty cool things that you can do. And we have been doing that for the better part of 20 years in our fulfillment center and in our logistics business to get the package with the smile to your house, right? And it is very sophisticated, but that was the mental model all along. Jeff, over 20 years ago, put out a memo, and I'll gladly share it because it's an epic memo, which was, you will use APIs. There will be no direct connections ever again in this company, or you will find a different job. And then you will produce a data as a product. So I don't care what your function is, you will make whatever data your function creates available to everyone else, because you never know who's going to find it valuable. Like there's nuggets all over the place. And if you make data available, and again, we try to make it as easy to do that as possible. But I don't know that it's, like ideally you would just have one platform and could do it all. And certainly we have the tools to try and make that a reality. But you also have software all over the place. You have vendors with data that you want to pull in. Like, so it's complicated.
Yeah, it becomes having many different vendors with many different data sources, even via API, maintaining those API layers, bringing all the data in, mapping the data, and ensure that the duplicates, deduping, and keeping that data secure in a very readable and usable format is a project in itself. Then you're just maintaining a data team, right?
That's that modern data strategy part of my title, right there. Yes, and if I'm honest, most companies struggle with that. Right, and while everybody's in a hurry to embrace AI, and should be, the hype is absolutely warranted. Has everybody heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect? A couple of head nods, right? So Dunning-Kruger effect is a psychological term or study which says it's got wisdom on one axis and time on another. And anybody have children? All right. Anybody know some children? Anybody still act like a child? All right. So I have two children. I have a 23-year-old and a just turned 16-year-old. And my 16-year-old has not been on this planet to accumulate a whole lot of wisdom, but has a whole lot of confidence, right? And so he is at the y-axis. He is at the peak of what is affectionately referred to Mount Stupid. And what follows Mount Stupid is the Valley of Despair, right? And this is equated to the hype cycles and everything else. Valley of Despair is when you realize that you don't know as much as you thought you knew when you were overly confident about what you're doing. When you start to do things with AI and you know exactly what you want to do, and it's hard or it doesn't do it, right? That's when you get frustrated. And everybody's going to get there. What a lot of companies are figuring out is when AI doesn't have access to the data it needs to give you good answers, you get frustrated and you fall into this valley of despair. My 23-year-old realizes that strawberries are expensive And why should I have to pay car insurance? And there's all kinds of things that
Taxes.
are like life. Yes, taxes, right? Like what is it? What's health benefits, right? Like all these things, like life is expensive. So they are smack dab in the valley of despair because they have figured out that they're going to be working for the rest of their lives. But ideally, we want to help you and your customers get over to the right, where you get enlightened, where you start to figure out how to balance things, how to move forward at pace, like with that sense of urgency, but with also a sense of responsibility.
Yeah, I agree. And keeping, it's a challenge. It's always that build versus buy, right? Do we build? I always had this discussion with our products and development teams is why do, someone in our development says, why do we build everything?
Yeah.
Can we ever just buy something for once? And the answer always is if we buy something, we're gonna have to integrate it later.
Yep, you will.
And we're gonna have to, all the data that produces, to your good point, in order to get that into and make it usable for our agentic AI, or even our business use cases, or our data teams, or our business process teams, or our sales optimization teams, we're gonna have to integrate it.
Yep.
So that's gonna take time too. So there is no such thing as just buying and it's just off the shelf and just sits there, unless you don't want to use the data.
Right.
So there's always that integration part. So I'll wrap up with this last question, which will dovetail back to an earlier point that we talked about, which is the experience in an organization, either in an entry-level role, a senior-level role, is so how much do you think in the world of agentic, or the future world of agentic AI, will one's experience play into the power of building agents versus just a generic model that says, you tell a model, you're an underwriter today, you can underwrite, versus being actual underwriting and seeing tens of thousands of loans and have that gut feeling. And something you said that's similar in our business, which is, it's in human impossible. The amount of steps to get a package to someone's doorstep is an unbelievable amount of steps. And that's similar if you sit down with one of our underwriters and said, tell me what you do.
Right.
And they go, oh, well, I pull data from here. I analyze this. I look at the industry report. Then I compare this, and I do this, and I do this in my head. I do this on this sheet. And then I do the amount of stuff that goes into this 50-page credit memo is enormous.
Yes.
And even one line in that memo. So I guess my question is, how much of that knowledge, or that industry knowledge, that job knowledge, is going to play into building successful agents versus just off-the-shelf model?
I think it's absolutely critical. So if you've been to the website, we make a promise to you, and it says, if you order it in the next 2 hours, you'll get it tomorrow, right? To make that promise is not trivial. What your customers are doing, right, to make a credit decision is not trivial, right? There's lots of steps, lots of complexity, but there's lots of manual steps, right? And so the gathering of all that information, right, it takes time, right? And time kills all deals, and it can definitely make it harder on the end customer if it takes too much time. And so this idea of speed and trying to free up the humans to do human things that are uniquely us, which is the judgment call. Okay, like the credit analysis has never been like a black and white ones and zeros number. And if you did, you weren't going to ever be terribly successful, right? Several have tried, and it's just like, here's the line, and it's just not that kind of business. There's a pretty big gray area where there are circumstances that there are trade-offs. There's this, there's that. You're trying to make heads or tails of it. So judgment call, critical thinking. I do think the subject matter expertise, your expertise in your various business processes, and don't raise your hand right now. Okay, I'm going to ask a rhetorical question. Okay, I don't want you to raise your hand. Almost all jobs have some part of their job that is administrative, that they don't particularly care for and doesn't bring you joy or have you jump out of bed. All jobs, including mine and my team's. I'll give you a perfect example. My team has to enter things into our CRM system to account for what they did, right? So we can attribute the value that they're creating for the business. And theoretically, I would have to go home and enter all of your names into the CRM system and say, I met with you on this day, and this is what we talked about, to demonstrate or account for my whereabouts and what I do. My team has admitted to me that, and they're very bright people, that's just not a good use of very bright people, like that manual data entry. But if they don't do it, I don't know what's going on. So there's this double-edged sword. So what they're doing is they would enter the 2 most senior people, and that's it. So they're basically underrepresenting their capabilities because the process, the task, is too laborious or mind-numbing, and just it's terrible. And so we've created an agent where I can take an invite and all the emails and drop it in and go, this is the details. Because it's the same information, just entered 50 or 70 times. And the agent does it, right? So instead of me wishing for death after I'm on the 70th one, I now just copy and paste the attendees from an invite. I give it the prompt, this is the date, this is what we talked about, and so forth, and I say, go. And in less than a minute, it's done 70 entries. And I am infinitely happier. So is my entire team. So there's a morale, human behavior thing that gets increased. And ultimately, what I want you to realize is that your knowledge is valuable. And automating parts of the task that you don't like to do is a good thing. And here, I'll ask Justin a question. We'll turn this around. If we automated 20% of the problems that they're solving, right, the things that they're doing, we freed up 20% of their time, do you believe there are other problems that they could go solve on behalf of this company and your customers?
We have an unlimited set of problems to solve. and I'll say this, in the market that we are in the business lending space, our mission from day one, 12 years ago, and I said it earlier, was to deliver capital to small businesses, small, medium-sized businesses, in an efficient and transparent manner.
Right.
And today in 2025, I don't believe that exists in business lending. And I'll tell you why. So if you look at, and my team's heard me say this many times before, but if you look at lending in general in the United States,
yep.
You look at consumer lending, you can look up right now on your phone, what is the mortgage rates of today?
Yep.
And you can say, well, I have a 740 FICO score, I have a house, I know I can get a mortgage, it's a commodity.
Yep.
And it takes you generally 30 to 45 days to get that mortgage.
Yep.
And that mortgage, that bank or that lender who's giving you that mortgage is trying to solve, it's a relatively simple problem, right? It's a husband, a wife, 2 partners, and a piece of collateral that they're underwriting.
Exactly.
And that piece of collateral is a house, apartment, a condo, a boat, maybe something, but someone can live in that. And you could resell that to everyone on earth.
Yep.
So that's a relatively simple problem. In business lending, so we call it, if that's algebra, business lending is like advanced calculus.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is because you're not dealing with 2 partners, a single piece of collateral that you can sell to everyone. Even if you have commercial real estate, that's maybe a doctor's office, and that's a piece of collateral, you can only sell that to other doctors.
Right.
You can't give that to a plumbing company, a warehouse. And then you don't have just 2 partners or one guarantor.
Right.
You might have 5 partners, different types of partnerships, different types of ownership structures.
Yeah.
And in this business, you don't have one revenue stream.
Right.
You have many different revenue streams, many different pieces of collateral, many different sources of revenue, different types of revenue, seasonality. So when we talk about the problem, so if you walk into your bank, you have a 740 FICO score, you can get a mortgage.
Yeah.
You could have the best gas station in the world or the best hotel in the world. You can walk into a bank and they go, we just don't do hotel lending. I'm sorry.
Right.
We just don't do
not
hotels.
Their expertise.
It's not our expertise.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do in 2025 is even that playing field. So instead of iBusiness, we don't lend any money. We process loans and have a banking network which we source and ultimately process loans on their behalf.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is commoditize the business lending space and to make it an efficient and transparent market. When I say efficiency, I mean the right capital for the right business.
Right.
And transparent is why did they get this product? Is it the right product for them?
Yeah.
And did they get the right product for the right price? And if they didn't get that product, what could that small business do, that lending product, to ultimately qualify for it in the future?
Right. Educate them.
Exactly. And so to your great point, which is that we, our expertise, so that what would we do with 20% more is we would still, this problem we're solving is not solved yet.
Right.
So the difference between—
You're making progress. But
we're making progress. And so until a small business can look up online and says, I'm a 3-year-old plumbing company based in Chicago, I can look up online what my rate is going to be.
Yeah.
That's when, I think we're running out of problems. But we are pretty far away from that. And that's what we're trying to solve. And I think AI and the adoption of AI is going to be absolutely critical. I think you're going to see so much more progress in the next 5 years than we saw in the last 25 combined.
I'm convinced you will. I encourage all of you. I know you're early adopters. I want to encourage you. I've seen this. People get used to a tool, whatever one they picked up first, right? And if you read anything, you know that these things are evolving and changing rapidly. So use more than one. Play around with others, because some are good at this, some are good at that, and you have to continually stimulate yourself and expose yourself. And we can certainly help with training and enablement, because some of this is just getting comfortable, learning, trying different things. But we want nothing more than for you to be able to go faster than you ever thought possible. AI is a absolute enabler to bring that vision in, right? Because it's been out there for 12 years and counting. And if we can work together to bring that in and innovate together faster, we'll push you, you push us. But if we're all rowing in the same direction, we're gonna get there faster. And I think the vision is worthy. I think the customers that you serve will only benefit. And you've got an amazing team that's already done amazing things that are, absolutely worth being proud of. But you're not done. And I want to encourage you that this is an incredible time to be a technical person because of what you're able to do. But challenge yourself to keep playing with the new tools, the new models, and expose each other. Like if you find something, share, right? Like we try and share, look what I did, and people start building off each other. That's how things innovate faster. Don't keep it to yourself. This is a time to really come together as a team and as a leadership team so that the whole goes faster and not just any one individual or any one team.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ben.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everyone. And appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
That was fun.
Yeah, you got a great company.